Here before you on this frigid winter day, we have two very different types of going about an electric luxury sedan, both by BMW. On the right here, we have what is touted as the ultimate electric luxury sedan, the new 2024 BMW i7 xDrive 60. And on the left, for about $48,000 cheaper, we have the i5 M60, which until the next generation M5 arrives, hopefully soon, is the fastest, most powerful, most potent 5 Series at the moment. This car is definitely built more for speed than this car, which is built for luxury. This is a car to drive. This is more a car to be driven in. It's worth noting at this point that I have a full walk around video of the i7 when it first arrived here in Utah that I filmed at the dealership, linked below. Also, I have a detailed review on the lower end trim, the eDrive 40 of the i5, also linked below. So we're not gonna go super in depth into either of these cars, but I thought it would be pretty fun to compare them. So let's do it. And here's the thing, it might not be a fair comparison because once again, these cars are both for completely different purposes. Like I said, the i5 M60 is meant to be more of a driver's luxury car that can set your pants on fire with one flooring it of the accelerator pedal, whereas the i5 takes a bit of a different approach to the luxury sedan formula. Thank you, door butler. Inside the i7, you will find a gorgeous interior with many high quality, expensive looking materials like crystal on the door panels and on the dashboard, and crystal seat control buttons on the door panel like you would find in, say, a Mercedes. Thank you, door butler. We move over to the i5 and you have, well, a traditional door. It opens and you look inside and you see carbon fiber on the dashboard. There is still a little bit of crystal, but not as much. And a more basic yet sportier interior with only see one M badge in the steering wheel, which is kind of surprising to me, and definitely a smaller cabin. If you're looking for an electric luxury BMW and you're planning on carrying business people in the back seat, the i7 is definitely the better bet. The i5 is still a 5 Series, so for somebody that's tall like me, it's quite cramped back there. Whereas the i7, in comparison, feels like the bed of a 5-star hotel. This is the new 7th generation 7 Series, and while it is certainly a distinctive, substantial looking thing, it also is similar to the 5 Series in the sense that it is not only offered as an electric version, which is what we have here, it is also offered as a gasoline version with a 6-cylinder or a V8, but no longer a V12, because if you want the smoothness and the luxury and the power that comes with the V12, BMW is sort of edging those people on towards getting an electric version of the 7 Series. My thoughts on the i7 are a little bit different from the i5. Some people don't like the look of the i7, and I get where they're coming from, but there is one important thing to note with the styling that I think is definitely an improvement over all the previous generations. Tell me which 7 Series before this one looks completely different and distinctive from the 5 Series that would come later. First 7 Series looks like an E12. Second 7 Series looks like an E34 5 Series. It goes on and on and on until this. These two cars are the first examples of a 5 Series and a 7 Series that look completely different from one another. There is no way anybody is going to be misinterpreting a 7 Series as a fat 5 Series anymore. It looks completely different because I've heard that it's designed for a wealthy Chinese younger business person, which is a little bit weird. That's an interesting approach to go about it. But hey, compared to the i7, this is definitely the more budget-friendly option. And also, like I've said, it is the sportiest with nearly 600 all-electric horsepower on tap. So let's step inside the true business end of the i7. Here's the thing, I'm just too rich to reach for the door handle and pull it closed. So instead, I'm going to call on the assistance of my door butler. Oh yes. Woo! That makes me feel poor. extremely poor. And we sit back here and oh my goodness, it is absolutely huge back here. I've got plenty of foot room to move around, plenty of leg room, and maybe could do it with a bit more headroom, but man alive, this thing is super comfortable. Everywhere you touch, all the materials, especially these seats. Oh my God, these seats feel so good. I've got a huge panoramic sunroof back here, but if I were to buy an i7, I would option it with the BMW theater screen, which is a 31-inch TV that folds down so that the rich people in the back seat can just watch movies whenever they want. I mean, this car is nicer than like most houses that I've been in back here. And you have individual tablets or phone things for the rear passengers back here. You can pretty much control everything, like the blinds. You want to kind of darken the mood a little bit back here, you can close all these, and now you could really take a nice nap. So the blinds, we can play with that. We can go into my modes and change the entire mode of the car. My favorite is digital art. So I press that button, the ambient lights in the doors turn purple, and up front on the dashboard, the entire crystal all goes a really nice shade of purple. There's also relax mode, which closes the sunroof and all of the blinds, which is really cool. Here's the thing. Now I'm feeling a little bit expressive. So hit expressive, and the car is probably getting annoyed at me right now. The crystal up front turns a nice blue and yellow color. So do the ambient lights back here. I mean, I can change the radio. I can call people. So if I want to call my assistant or something like that at the business company that I work at, the business company, you get what I'm saying. If I want to call my assistant at the business company that I work for to fire him, then I can do that from the back seat of my 7 Series. I don't care. He's working paycheck to paycheck. I'm back here. I make $400,000, $500,000 a year. I don't care about the lower class, do I, at all? And if the lower class starts beating at your window and trying to get in and look at you, boom. See ya, losers! The seats, oh yeah, I can adjust the seats as well. So I think I'm just gonna move this forward. Backrest, God, I've never seen so many different seat adjustments for the back seats. Oh, I've reclined to the back seat. I think I might just have a little nap for a moment. Oh, this is what you get when you spend $140,000 on a car. You get this level of luxury. And chances are, if you have the money to pay for a car like this, you're going to want to pay somebody to drive it for you. So I think in the 7 Series, at least, this back seat area is the most important area of the car. If they don't get it right, then it's not good at being a large luxury sedan. That is really one key difference between the 5 and the 7 Series. The 7 Series is a car to be driven in. The 5 Series is a car to drive. Here we are in the front seat of the i5, but the i5 is the car, again, for the driver, I would say. And to hit that theme straight out of the park, you have the top of the steering wheel in the very center is painted red, just like a race car. And the idea with that is that you can see when you're on the racetrack where the center of the steering wheel is. I think that's the idea, which makes sense for a race car. But for an i5, a luxury electric sedan, this is pretty much the same steering wheel as in the i7 minus the M stitching and this red on here. Just like the back seat, it's not quite as nice as the i7. It's smaller and there's a little bit less of an emphasis on the actual luxury touches like the crystal, but you can kind of see where they copied the i7's homework. So I've got crystal here on the door and in the dashboard, carbon fiber instead of wood, which I would take the wood, obviously. I guess it makes more sense than it would in an eDrive 40, but still not a big fan of that. I also have, just like in the i7, a crystal iDrive control knob, a crystal volume knob, and a crystal gear selector knob, which are optional extras, I'm sure. This whole interior is kind of a simplistic take on a luxury sedan interior. So the vents are kind of hidden, not very well hidden, but they're supposed to be hidden, just like they are in the i7. I've got a huge screen that stretches across the front of the dashboard here, again, just like in the i7. I have a digital gauge cluster, which changes based on my driving mode, again, like in the i7. And I have all those same modes like I do in the i7. Expressive, relaxed, digital art, all do the same thing in the i7 minus the automatic window blinds. And another boost paddle, which I forgot to do in the i5 eDrive 40 video, and I probably won't do today because it's quite snowy. So yeah, I think it is time that we take these cars out for a drive. First off, my microphone has decided it doesn't want to play ball anymore today. It's a good thing that this car has xDrive, BMW's all-wheel drive system, and 536 horsepower with a driving range of around 318 miles, which is pretty good. 536 horsepower, we are not going to be using that today. Oh yeah, no. Yeah. Be careful when you're driving this thing because the traction control looks at the conditions outside and goes, 9. No. Absolutely not. If I was in something cheap and crappy, I'd be having a little bit of fun on this road. But I am in something very expensive. When we drive the i7, the most apparent thing is how comfortable and luxurious every part of this driving experience is. It's absolutely lovely. This really needs to meet a high standard of quality and quietness and smoothness, and it absolutely does. I just wish I was in the back seat. This is Utah driving here. I'm straddling 2 lanes in a 7 Series, and I am driving easily the nicest, most expensive car out of any of these people. We can talk about traction in all weather situations because this is definitely an all weather situation. For driving in the snow, it's quite easy. It doesn't slip a lot. It doesn't have any freaky, scary moments unless you put your foot down. Traction control is good, but doesn't intervene too much. It intervenes just enough to keep you from killing yourself, and that's good in this situation. There is also a higher performance version of the i7 called the M70, and that's more in line with the sporty ethos of the i5 M60. And I think it has, I want to say 650 horsepower or something like that. So normally at this stage, we're coming up to our favorite bit of road. Normally I would put my foot down and really feel the acceleration. But in this today, oh yeah, that was a bit of a slide. Again, the traction control is very good at mitigating the power, but letting enough of it go through that you get to where you're going. But yeah, normally this can do 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. On this surface, it's probably a bit longer than that. It's just nice to sit here and think about it while I bask in the luxuriousness of this car. In the i5 M60 now, would like it to be nice and dry so we could really feel the difference between this and the eDrive 40 that I've driven previously. What we're actually going to do is find out how well the M60 does in the snow. So there's not much to really talk about to compare this to the eDrive 40 that I've also driven on the channel, because everything that is different about it is what's going to be not relevant on a day like today, unfortunately. You can definitely still hear those iconic sounds whirring away, trying to make me forget about the fact that this car is powered by the same sort of thing that powers, let's say, a food blender or your lights at home. It doesn't sound very good when you look at it from a purist mindset, where every BMW should be a straight 6 or a V8 or a V12 and have a manual transmission option. This 5 Series is the first 5 Series that really just forgets about all of that stuff. Yes, it's got 600 horsepower, but it's the same basic type of power, the same power curve, the same kind of sound that you get out of every electric car ever. It's always beautiful linear power delivery, yes. Doesn't make any noise unless the infotainment has some clever trickery, which of course BMW would do. That's a BMW thing. It's a lot like that eDrive 40 to drive, which isn't a bad thing. The eDrive 40 had good amount of power. Those iconic sounds were pretty hilarious, and the handling was very good, actually, for a car that's this heavy. I mean, this and the i7, definitely the heaviest car in their respective lineages. But the thing that new BMWs are good at, despite being very heavy and needing a trip to the gym, is disguising their weight. And that's one thing that you definitely feel with the i5, especially through the turns. This is technically still just an M-Lite version. So there is going to be an even higher performance version upon this body in the form of the M5 with the plug-in hybrid V8 from the BMW XM, but you don't have to have the hideous body and the high price tag of an XM. So that is going to be a car that I'm definitely going to want to do a video on. And maybe this on a dry day. So the i7 is $40,000 more expensive, and this powertrain is the same type of powertrain, so it feels no smoother, no quieter than the i5. Granted, this is the M version of the i5, and that i7 was just a regular i7, so in terms of power, that argument isn't very valid, but in terms of luxury and refinement, I mean, you don't get much more luxury, quietness, smoothness out of the i7 than you do in the i5. In fact, you get no more because it's the same type of powertrain. And that is one downside of the i7. That's why they had to put more effort into the interior quality, namely in the back seat area and the materials and stuff like that. So I'm not doubting that i7 is worth $40,000 more than this. I would definitely have the i7 as a daily driver over the i5, but it's just worth bearing in mind that for daily driving, if you're not carrying businessmen in the back seat, an i5 really makes more sense. The suspension's definitely a little bit harsher than the i7, but given the fact that this is the M version of the i5, this is the most comfortable M suspension that I've ever been in. It feels, I can't complain at all about suspension comfort. It's just that the i7 is in a different world of comfort. For driving for fun, or just driving yourself to work in the morning when it's just you, then this car honestly makes more sense and is a better value than the i7. But if you want automatic doors, not gonna find them here. So yeah, in short, I wish it was dry so I could have more fun with this car, but this is really forcing me into more of a serious review that's more consumer oriented. $96,000, it definitely feels like $96,000. With that, I'm going to thank everybody for watching. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. If you want to see like an alternate video with each of these cars separately in the dry, I would be more than happy to do that, so just let me know in the comments. So for now, like, subscribe, do all the normal YouTube stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. Oh, good.